Hello there, and welcome back to the Application Insider YouTube channel. Today, I've got a real treat for you. I want to give you an example of exactly what it's like to have a brainstorm call with me. So today, I am sharing a brainstorm call that I had with Melissa in April 2021. I am sharing this with Melissa's full permission, and I am so grateful that she was willing to share her experience so other dietetics students can see what it is like to chat with me to get help on your application for no charge at all. The brainstorm calls that I offer are 20 minutes long and they are absolutely free. I want you to get a feel for working with me, but also even if you're not able to pay for services, to be able to have someone to answer your questions as you are putting your application together, or even just figuring out where to get started. So that's what the whole brainstorm call is about. So Melissa and I spoke, like I said, in April 2021. She was telling me that she is currently a graduate student and she is planning on applying in the spring 2022 match. Like all dietetic students, her goal is to submit a strong application and increase her chances of matching to an internship on her very first try. So you'll hear in this call the questions that she asked, some of the concerns she had. A lot of it had to do with picking which programs to apply to, playing with the numbers of, how many programs or spots should I be looking out for, and what does that mean for my chances going into the match. We also talked about how she can have conversations with directors to get specific information about programs and questions that she might have about what they offer. And then she also had questions about pursuing the DTR credential and taking that exam, or upgrading her MNT classes, and just kind of balancing what those options offer and what might be the best step for her to take at this time. So in this call, you will hear my answers to her questions. And I also, in basically every single call I usually have a lot of resources that I share with those students that address their questions. After every call, I give that student a summary of the call with all of those links provided. They also get a recording of the call so they can go back and watch it if they would like. So that's just an extra bonus of what you can get when you have a brainstorm call with me. So you'll hear what Melissa asked, how our conversation went, and you'll hear the resources that I think would be a good fit for her, addressing her questions, and also the application insider guidance that could be a great way for her to continue working with me on her application. Everything that we talk about in this call, I have links for in the caption, so you can get a feel for what those additional resources might offer as means of answering the questions that came up in this particular call. And of course, when you and I have your call, I will give you resources that are specific to what you need and answer your questions for your application. So let's go ahead and see what this brainstorm call is all about. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Nicole. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
Good, thanks. Nice to meet you.
Well, yes, nice to meet you too.
Yeah, so excited to talk to you. I guess I'll just give like a little bit of a background. I don't know how you usually start these.
Let me start with that. Let me just tell you quickly what to expect from this. We can chat about anything you want, and I am recording the call, and I will actually also send you a summary with anything we talk about, links, information, all of that. So you'll have that after the call later this afternoon. So we've got like 15-ish minutes to chat about anything you want. And then I just reserve the last few minutes to let you know what Application Insider has that might be a good fit for you based on what we talk about. So just know that that's coming. You can decide whether or not you purchase anything, but that's part of the call.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, I definitely had questions about, the different packages that you offer and everything. So maybe I'll save those questions to the end when we get to it.
Okay.
Yeah, great. Okay. So I'm a current grad student. I have a bachelor's degree in dietetics, getting my master's in nutrition, interventions, communication, and behavior change at the Friedman School of Nutrition at Tufts. So I'm planning on applying to the spring 22 match.
Okay.
So I'm just in the beginning stages of, trying to figure out which programs I want to apply to and get as much of my application done as I can this summer before, the craziness of the school year starts. And yeah, I'm just basically looking for some additional support just because I know I'm going to be so busy with school. And I just want to make sure that I have a really strong application because I did decide to go to grad school first and took the extra time to do that. So just want to do everything that I can to ensure that I get matched the first time around.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my biggest question, the thing that I'm struggling with the most right now, is just trying to figure out which programs to apply to and like how to be strategic with choosing programs, because I've gone through the applicant guide and I've picked out the programs that I'm interested in. But I feel like I'm struggling because you can kind of get a sense from the guide, like what their criteria are and if your GPA is in their range and everything. But I feel like I've heard so many stories of people, being like qualified applicants and then them not getting matched. And I think it really comes down to like strategy and like where you apply partially.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'm just wondering, like, how can I figure that out, like right off the bat? Like which programs like I have a good chance of matching to.
Yeah. Okay. There's kind of two elements I'm thinking of. The first thing is finding programs that are going to be a good fit for you. So that's like taking into consideration what is going to make a program feel like it's right for you. And that's including like important things like you mentioned. Do I meet the GPA requirement? Do I have the tuition they're going to be asking for? But then other important elements, I'm going to send you a link to a podcast episode where I just actually recently talked about this, but it's things like, do you really is it really important to you that you have a rotation in a specific area of dietetics? Or is it more important that you do not have to relocate to an internship? Like things like that, where you can look at the guide and you can see what criteria and things that they are telling you. But when it comes down to it, what feels really good for you? Because some people are like, I cannot wait to move and I will go wherever the internship takes me. And other people are like, I have a 50-mile radius that I feel comfortable for whatever reason staying within. So I think it's important to consider those elements for you. That will help you narrow things down. And then as far as like that might not feel super strategic. That can feel just like, what do I want in my program? I think it's important to consider that. As far as strategy and things, you're probably going to have to get some information by talking to programs. So I don't know if there's a better or worse order to do this. It might be good, like what elements are important to me, have, narrow down some programs that way, and then start contacting programs and getting a sense of what they'll be like. That might be something, that narrowing down what you are looking for might help you come up with questions to ask them. Like, I'm just going to make some stuff up. Let's say you're like, a distance program feels like it's a really good option for me, but I need one that I know is going to support me really well in these certain things. So I'm going to talk to the director and ask them questions. I'm going to see if I can chat with someone who is in the program or recently finished so I can get their kind of perspective on it. So, figuring out what you want might help open up some conversations to get some of that information. Other important stuff for you to know, some of this is in the guide, but it can be helpful to ask directors as well. I think part of strategy is knowing how competitive programs are. And that means finding out how many spots they have and how many applications they receive. Because that will tell you right off the bat, oh, this program has 6 spots and they get 100 applications. So they have a 6% match rate. That's kind of low. Or this program has 50 spots and they get 150 applications. And that's a third, I can't do math in my head. That's a third match rate. That feels a little better for me. So I think getting some of that information is going to be really important. So like I said, you can't, I'm pretty sure that's all in the guide, how many spots they have and then how many applications they received in like the previous match or something like that. But talking to someone can give you a little more information. This is information you can choose whether or not to disclose. It's totally up to you. But let's say you're like, my GPA is not where I would like it to be, but I have really awesome work experience. You can open up that conversation and they might be able to tell you, oh yeah, if there's a low GPA, we actually balance that out with extra hours or experience in a specific area. And that's information that's not going to be in the guide. Or you might find out, actually, it's a black and white GPA requirement. And then you might decide, do I meet that? Do I not meet that? That can be a decision maker, obviously. But then if you're like, okay, I barely make the requirement, you can ask them, well, I'm getting a master's degree. Does that add a point to my application? Or I've got work experience. Does that, it might not completely outweigh a GPA situation, but does that add points? Like you can kind of, again, you choose what you want to disclose of your own situation if there is anything you are concerned about, but that can give you insight to like, okay, they do have a point system that seems to favor people with X amount of hours or with a variety of experience, or you might find out that their personal statement is like 50% of the points that they give, you know, things like that. I feel like I'm rambling now. Does that make sense where I'm going?
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. And I guess, yeah, because like one of my other questions is I feel like when you're applying to colleges, you kind of have the idea of like a safety school, you know, and so that's like kind of what I'm like trying to figure out. Cause like, you know, I'll probably end up applying to a couple of programs that are, you know, more reach programs that like ideally I would love to get into, but maybe have, you know, like I'm like Mass General and Ohio State are two that I really love. But I'm just, they get a ton of applicants. So I'm just like not super confident that I would, you know, get matched. But like, so I guess like in that sense, is it, you know, programs that I get fewer applicants? Like, can you kind of consider that more of like a safety program if you like meet their criteria and everything?
Yeah, you can. I mean, it's important to realize that programs that participate in the match, not every program does, most do still, but just be aware that there's some outliers. But programs that participate in the match, when you open up your results on match day, you get one match or no match. So it's not like 3 programs chose me and now I have another hard decision. So it's important that you know that going in. Where the safety option comes into play is, you know, you can increase your chances of matching just if they have more spots and less applicants. You can include them on your list in ranking, but you still want to rank by your true preference. So ranking comes later on, but you can only rank programs that you have applied to. So another thing I'm going to send you, so these things I mentioned so far are free. Like the one I mentioned before is a podcast episode. The one I'm going to mention now is a webinar I did that covers the whole matching and algorithm process and how it's so important that you rank by your true preference. So of the two you just said, let's say you do all the research, you apply, Mass General is still like your number 1 program you want to be in. So you're going to rank that number 1. I don't care what else you hear about them. If you've decided to apply and they are the one you want the very most, you rank them number 1, even if they have a 6% match rate. And then Ohio State, you decide that's your second most, you rank them number 2. And then I'm just looking at the list you submitted, so I'm not projecting anything. But let's say you decide Cornell is like, that's kind of your safety. They have, the numbers seem a little more favorable overall, but they're really your third choice. So you really do rank them number 3. And when you watch this matching an algorithm webinar, that will explain it a little better. But that's how you can kind of incorporate a safety school. Like, I'm applying because the numbers seem more in my favor, but this is not my top choice. But it might help me out. But also realize the more programs you apply to, the more money and time you put into it, essentially.
Right. Yeah.
So just know that going in.
And I guess that leads to another question, which this probably depends greatly on the person, but like in terms of number of programs to apply to, like is there like a certain number, like beyond a certain number, is it just like not worth it, like to apply to, you know, like 10 programs seems excessive, but maybe like 5 or 6 seems reasonable, or is that like still too many? I just like, how many do people typically apply to?
The most common number applied to, this is based on hearsay as well as a survey I did. There were only like 35 people that responded to this survey, but the most common number I've ever heard and came out in the survey is 3. I don't know what it comes down to. Some people, that might just be like an easy number to balance to do that many applications. It's like a nice roundish number. It's not even, but it makes sense. Yeah. But at the same, I mean, I've heard of people who applied to 6 programs or more. And there are also people who applied to 1 program. And on both ends of the whole spectrum, there are people who match and there are people who don't match. So I think I'm going to send you another podcast episode or a blog post. I can't remember what it is, but it talks about programs versus spots. And this is, again, something you can get from the guide. So let's say you apply to, it's easier if I just do 2. Let's say you decide, I'm going to apply to 2 programs. Both of those programs have 10 spots. So you're up for 20 spots.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say you apply to, someone else applies to 2 programs. One program has 10 spots and one program has 50 spots. That person applied for 60 spots, but the same number of programs. And
okay,
then you have to factor
so it's like more like overall spots. Okay.
Yeah, again, you have to factor in the competitiveness, because if that person who applied to 60 spots also ultimately has a 6% match rate, whatever that number of applicants is, like there's a lot that goes into it, and I'm not a statistician.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to realize, you can apply to 3 programs and 30 spots, or you can apply to 3 programs and 100 spots.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's
important to kind of consider how all of that works. So I'll send you whatever, I really don't remember if it's a podcast episode or a blog post, but I'll send you that you can, it's essentially what I just said, but you can think about it a little more.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then I guess my last question is, I'm considering taking the DTR exam this summer. And I'm just kind of like, right now I'm kind of at the end of all this, and I'm trying to, fill out my resume as much as possible. And I'm kind of debating if I should take it. But I'm also thinking that I might take a graduate level MNT class next year, just because it's been a while since my undergrad course. And I just, I don't know, do you think that it's worth it to do both of those things? Is it like worth the time and the money investment into taking the exam if I'm going to take the MNT course? Or is it more so that they just like to see that you can pass the exam? But at the same time, I feel like, I don't know, being a grad student, I feel like maybe that just has like some advantage over the exam, because clearly like I've gotten into grad school and I'm doing really well and all that. So I feel like, just trying to like use my time wisely, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Everything you've mentioned will add to your application, and it's going to vary by the program how much they care about any one of those things. So someone might be like, oh, she's got a master's degree, that's an extra 2 points. I have no idea, I'm making stuff up. And then someone's going to be like, oh, she has the NDTR exam, that's 2 points, and the grad school is 1 point. When did you graduate from your DPD program? Like, when was the last time you took MNT?
So I graduated in 2019. So I took MNT fall of 2018. So it'll be like it'll be more than 3 years. And I know some programs would like to see it within 3 years. I'm going to be just over that, which is why I'm considering taking it. Although I know I like have to ask directors about like their specific preferences, because I know maybe like just like being in a graduate program would be enough, that they wouldn't require that. I have to look into that more. But even just for like my personal, like I feel like it would be a good review before I start my program. But it's been a while, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if there's anything that's going to become a black-white thing for an application to an internship, my guess is that it would be the recency of MNT. And like you said, it's going to vary. Some programs are going to have a 3-year cutoff. The program I was in, we had a 5-year cutoff. Like if your MNT classes were 5 years ago, it wasn't recent enough. So that I think would be the first thing to look into is whether it's what programs you've already narrowed down, or if you just are like, I kind of need to get an idea so I can decide now. That I think is the first thing to look into to decide. And then if it becomes, I do like taking this MNT course is going to make me feel more peace of mind that I'm just not brushing right up against this wall that they have put up. And then deciding, do I feel like I can take the NDTR exam at the same time, or is it just let's focus on MNT? Because in the time frame that we've got, I mean, if you take the NDTR, programs are going to like that. If you take the exam, you pass, you have the credential, it shows you can take a standardized exam that is administered by the same organization that does this RD exam. So that's like bonus points for them because they want to see that you'll pass the RD exam. So that like increases the likelihood that could happen. But again, if they have a black and white, like your MNT needs to be so many years ago or within so many years, what were your grades in MNT? Like high, low, middle ground?
Oh, I got an A. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not really concerned about GPA. I had a 3.92 in undergrad.
Okay.
So I'm like, yeah, I'm more so worried about like experience because I feel like that's where I'm lacking. I feel like academically I'm a very strong applicant and I, in grad school and I'm doing very well. But I just feel like I'm lacking a little bit on the experience front.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and that I feel like I'm just throwing options at you that you've already considered. Another thing to look at if you want to brush up on MNT and get experience is see if you could get a clinical position somewhere, which I know with COVID, like it's all up in the air and totally depends on your area and what's available. But that might be something that could kill two birds with one stone, where just being in a clinical environment, looking at charts, obviously not doing the exact same thing an RD does, but like a diet tech, like that's going to bring some things up to the front of your brain that have just been nestling in the background for a little while.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So yeah, like again, I feel like I just threw options at you. I don't know. I obviously can't tell you what to do, but those are some things to think about in deciding what really is going to be the next best step for me.
Yeah, no, that's very helpful. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions you want to jump in before I mention a few things?
I think that's good. Yeah. Yeah, if you want to tell me about the different packages, I have like a couple specific questions, but I'll let you talk first because you might answer those questions.
Okay. Well, the first thing I thought of, especially for where you are like just kind of a year ahead-ish of like roughly a year from when you plan to apply, and where it's kind of like we need to start narrowing things down and gathering information. The first thing I thought of is the application prep workbook. That's got a chapter for every section of DICUS, but it starts like the very first chapter is like, what do you want in an internship? And here's some things like they give you basically a whole list of like, here's a bunch of things to think about that you might not have even thought to consider. And then the next chapter is like, now go look at program websites and see what they have and compare it to this list of important things. And that can help you narrow things down. And then it goes, into this is everything in DICUS and tips and all of that. So that's the first thing I thought of. That's just a downloadable thing that you can use on your own time. That's like the tool that hits what we talked about really. The other, like I've got stuff that focuses on individual parts of the application. I've got stuff for the personal statement. I've got stuff for resume and like the experience section of your application that include tools as well as working with me one-on-one. And then there's something for the entire application that is working with me one-on-one, where it's like, whether like some people got it like 2 weeks before they hit submit. So we kind of crammed everything in and I would look over the application. If there's more time, then it's like, okay, if you want to be working on your personal statement over the summer, let's chat personal statement. You get these tools like that are included with the package. And then I'll review your personal statement, give you good feedback that you can use to make revisions and updates. And then next you decide to move on to your resume and work volunteer experience. We chat about that. I look that over. And then eventually we've talked through your entire application together. That was a really fast rundown. Do you have other questions from what you've seen?
No, that's good. Yeah. So I guess my question was, so like I was looking at like the full DICUS application review. And I know so on that I was just wondering what the difference is. You have two things listed on there, and one is like one review of your complete prepared application, and then the other is feedback on all sections of your complete prepared application. So is that kind of like, as I complete them, I would submit them to you and you would provide feedback? And then like at the end, before I submit the whole thing, you look at the whole thing? Is that how that works?
So those kind of mean the same thing. So the one application means if you apply to 3 programs, I'm looking at stuff for 1 program. Okay. So like, a lot of that's going to be the same. So the grade, that's all the same. That's the same for every program. The work and volunteer experience and resume is the same for every program. But that would mean like, I look at your personal statement for Mass General, but not the one you're submitting to, I can't even remember, to Cornell. But you would obviously be able to use whatever feedback that I give you on the one for Mass General to the one for Cornell. And then any, like if you apply to a program that has supplementary materials, that's included as well. But again, like I would look at the supplementary for Mass General, not the supplementary for Ohio. So you get feedback on every section. And again, whether that's we're cramming it into 2 weeks or we're spacing things out because you're getting a really good head start on things, like every section is covered, but only for one program.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that does make sense. And then I guess I'm just trying to figure out, like, I feel like there are probably certain aspects of my application that I'll need more help on, like the personal statement, obviously. So I'm wondering, so like if you purchase the personal statement review individually, like you have listed on here that it includes like a creation call and a review and revision. So are like those two things included in the full application review, or only if you do the individual?
Yeah, so if we do the full application review, when we get to the personal statement part, it's like, okay, let's schedule our personal statement call. And you have time,
Okay.
like the people who only gave me 2 weeks, we had like one call covering everything because there were only 2 weeks. With the time we've got, it's like, let's focus on personal statement. Let's have our personal statement call. You write it and then I review it. I only review it once. It's a very thorough review, but it's helpful. Like, don't come to the call being like, I haven't even looked at the questions yet. So it's helpful to do some things on your part. I do one review, and then if needed, we can have another call if you're like, I have no idea what your notes even mean, but I just do that one review. There is an option to add on another review, whether if you do the full DICUS, that could be like a personal statement for another program, or it could be like, I did all the revisions, I want another thorough review of this updated version. And so there are options to like add on another personal statement review, but the initial thing is just a one thorough review.
Okay. All right. Got it. That makes sense. Yeah, I think that answered all my questions. I know we're over our time, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time. But this was super helpful. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So later this afternoon, I don't even know are you in Eastern?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
It might be evening for you, but sometime before you wake up tomorrow morning, I'll just send you an email with a summary of this call and links to everything we chatted about. Go ahead and just let me know if you have any questions from there. You obviously get to decide what your next steps are, and this is by no means any pressure to buy. I just want you to know what's available, and you can make that decision from there.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Have a great rest of your day, Melissa.
Thank you. You too.
Bye. So what did you think of that brainstorm call? Are you ready to schedule your own? A huge thank you to Melissa for her willingness to share her brainstorm call experience as a means of letting other dietetic students know exactly what it is like. So as I mentioned at the top of this video, following this call, I sent Melissa a summary of our call with links to all of the resources that I mentioned would be a good fit for her questions, as well as all the application insider guidance that might help her move forward if she wants to continue working with me. And you would get the same after your call. Whatever questions you have, I let you know what resources I already have. Free things like podcast episodes or blog posts or some of the freebies that I offer. And I also let you know, based on our conversation, what application insider guidance options might be a good fit for you, whether that's a tool that you can purchase and download or an opportunity for you and I to work one-on-one on your application together, whatever it takes for you to feel the absolute best, highest level of confidence when you are ready to hit submit. That's what I want for you. I'm pretty sure you want something along those lines for yourself. So if you are wondering, how can Application Insider help you? And you don't want to put any money down on that until you know exactly what to expect, the Brainstorm Call is your best bet. It's 20 minutes long, it's absolutely free, and you can schedule it at your convenience. I have a link in the caption below for you to see my calendar, pick a slot and pencil yourself in. I would love to chat with you about your application. And with this insider insight, your application is sure to stand out.